All right, we should be live. Good evening, everybody. This is Roger Sutherland and Alex Brooks from the Guitar Gear Locker doing
Hey,
our live show number one. Um, Hopefully,
Alex.
it's working. We just
Yep.
figured we would do kind of a test hit tonight to see how this goes because we've obviously never done a live show before. And you're going to see us looking around on the screen because we kind of don't know what we kind of know what we're looking for, but not exactly. So we're going to be watching in case somebody types some comments in or what have you. But we figured we'd do it, like I said, a little test hit, just some BS sessions like Alex and I have almost daily. So I think we'll jump, and we're just got the thumbs up that we are live. So I figured I would pick the scab first and ask you how your guitars are doing, the missing guitars.
Oh, yeah. So the fantastic airlines and fantastic customer service. My guitars are still stuck in Newark Airport for the past week, and yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And and I'm still in limbo. So hopefully, I get my two of my guitars back that actually you, Roger, worked on and got set up for me. Two brand new guitars
Right.
I got from ESP. Thanks to Tony Roser who got me the guitars, and thanks to you, Roger, for doing a fantastic job.
And thanks to
They,
you, we did it together.
they really stood up well in Europe recently, and yeah, so hopefully I get them back in the next couple days. I hope.
I mean, they know where they are, though, right?
Yeah,
You
in
think?
Newark. Yeah, in
Oh, in
Newark, but
Newark.
in Newark Airport, but no, the two airlines don't seem to communicate with each other
No,
to get
imagine that.
uh, my guitars back. They're just in limbo. So
Yeah, I know we.
well,
Good.
I actually saw another friend of mine, Devin from San Sugabab. San, I still can't get the name of your band correct, guys. I love you guys. I can't. I can still never get it right. So, long story short, I saw Devin write "fuck United Airlines" just
Right.
yesterday. I was like, "Yes, fuck
Same
United."
problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
excuse my language. I don't know if I'm, but
Yeah. I mean, you should say it's French, right? Excuse my
yeah,
French. But,
yeah.
well, and they've I mean, speaking of them, they've made the news here lately, with,
Oh,
I guess their logo was copied by the Kelsey brothers and, in a good way. I think
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
kinda did it as in a complimentary way, which was kinda cool.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty crazy. It's just
Yeah,
like it's funny how death metal enters into the, I guess, pop culture in a sense too. It's pretty
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
But
kinda interesting.
I don't know if those
So,
guys are going to get royalties.
what's that?
I said, I don't know if those guys are going to get any royalties, but that remains to
Yeah,
be seen.
right. Somebody will
You know?
get paid, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So tell us about your last couple weeks. Obviously, we haven't been on because you've been away. I promised that I was going to have a video out of us working on the missing guitars.
Yeah.
And oh my God, 3 hours of, well, I mean, it was a 2 hour recording of us working on that guitar, right? 2 hours, two and a half,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then watching the whole thing again and listening to myself talk, which was nauseating to me, listening to me, and editing that thing after 3 hours, I was just spent. I found out that, how good I am at video editing, but it will be on here one day. So we've been kind of missing in action, and you've been out of the country. So how about telling us what you've been up to?
Well, so we only did 4 shows, and we played Hellfest first, which was, awesome, one of the best festivals on the planet, really, I would say. And yeah, that was a great show. It was first show of the year for us, so that went really well, actually, considering a lot of obstacles. Actually, speaking of airlines, they lost Steve's. drum pedals, his cymbals, all this kind of stuff on the way over. So it was a very similar situation. And luckily, the great people at Hellfest went to the airport and retrieved his stuff just in time before we had to play live,
Mm.
you know. And
Is this
yeah,
like
so
a normal thing?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think it's just lately I've noticed like things have been worse, I guess, with airlines losing people's stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, so luckily Steve got his stuff just in time. He
right.
actually did, like a new trigger system for his drums, and luckily he had him because it seems the new system that he has really works out really well. And so I was glad that all came together
Yeah,
last
yeah,
minute. And then yeah, so then I think it was like 2 days later we flew into Romania and played Romania, one-off show in Romania in Bucharest, and that was an amazing show. And then we had a bunch of days off in Prague, which was cool to have some days off, but I preferred
yeah, yeah.
playing, of course, because you're spending
Right,
money instead of making money,
right,
playing.
right.
So we played, and then we played Obscene Extreme Festival in
Yeah.
Czech Republic, and that was an amazing show. Really, definitely, I would say for all the shows, that was probably a highlight. And then,
Pretty well attended.
oh yeah, yeah, and it's just like that festival in particular is kind of a unique festival. It's more of like a grindcore kind of more, punk attitude kind of thing, and so not too many like death metal bands, I guess, like us that play, which
Yeah.
was cool because, a little bit different audience, I guess, for
Uh-huh.
us, and which was great because they were just nuts. And so, just people just like on the stage and stage diving like
Yeah.
crazy, and all kinds of crazy characters. And yeah, that was really good. And then the last show we played in Netherlands, somewhat newer festival called Pitfest,
Right.
and that was another great show. I mean, all four of
Yeah.
the shows were fantastic, but I'd have to say my favorite, just because of the vibe of Obscene Extreme, was like really crazy crowd.
Yeah.
And I
Now
I'd say,
the
yeah, we would agree that was our favorite one.
did the other festivals kinda have that mix that, Hellfest had? Like, I mean, it was everybody
Yeah,
from
well,
Euro to
Hellfest,
Foo Fighters to
yeah, yeah, Hellfest. Like the day we played, it was like us, Megadeth, Kerry King,
yeah,
Sodom, and then you had like Avenged Sevenfold, and
right.
who else played that day? And then a couple days later, it was like Foo Fighters, Metallica, Queens of the Stone Age, stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Man, that's
I
a
was,
good mixture, you know?
yeah, yeah, I like that in particular. I like diversity, festivals. Like the last time we played Hellfest, the day we played, it was like Leonard Skinner and
Right.
Slayer and Tool and Slash, and for me, it was just great to see Leonard Skinner and get to see
Yeah,
them with Gary Washington, so that was a really highlight for me. So fast forward years later, played again, and yeah, it was it's a fantastic festival, really well organized,
right.
and great people that work the festival, and yeah, it's just really fantastic, and
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
one of my favorites. So, and then yeah, can come home to no guitars. So here I am, but got home safe. That's what matters,
That's all that matters, man. Got home in one piece, and hopefully your guitars are still in one piece.
Yeah.
Now, have you had that happen before?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Not like, but yeah, if guitar's been lost and not make it, and problems like that. But luckily, I think it happened one time when I was starting a tour, and but luckily I got the guitars just in time, like for that day, like the day that Like we had like rehearsals, pre-rehearsals for a tour, and I
Mhm.
just used some Bob's guitars for rehearsal, and then luckily they showed up the
Yeah,
day we were leaving for tour or whatever. But yeah, these things have happened. I mean, I have friends that have had much worse. The stuff disappeared, just never got it back. Like
right.
even the fellow ESP guy, the guitar player of the band Death Angel, like
Mhm.
recently, I think he was like one of his or one or two of his custom shop ESPs just disappeared,
Right.
which is kind of funny. Like disappeared from the
Yeah,
airlines. I don't know if he ever got him back, but I know for a while he didn't get him, and sounds like an inside job. Somebody
yeah,
took guitars. I think he
right,
was flying to Japan or something like that.
right,
And
right.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
so
it
I
happens.
hear a lot of, just run-of-the-mill people talking about they hate traveling with guitars. It always seems to be a thing. I didn't realize it's funny. You always hear me say that. Like you'll say something, I'm surprised. Like I'm surprised that this is a common thing that the guitars, because you think that it's like, oh, there's a band traveling. Let's make sure, we take special care of their stuff so they can go perform. But I guess it's just like my suitcase getting thrown in the bowels of a plane.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's getting to the point where now I'm just kind of thinking of like the super expensive guitars, leaving them at home, and because I brought out quite a few times, some like highly expensive guitars, on tour through multiple flights and South America and stuff like that, and
Right.
now I'm considering like, yeah, the ESP guitars, Japanese guitars will stay at home, and maybe the LTDs will come out more often. I don't know, but
Right.
but at the same time, guitars are meant to be played, right? It's like
Yeah, they're meant to be
you know,
played, but you also don't want to, throw some good money after. You think it could get stolen, it could get lost, it could get damaged. Your guitars are lost. If you're sitting there with a super high dollar, you don't necessarily want to take that risk sometimes. But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
they're made to be played.
Sentimental. Something's really sentimental to you. Like
Yeah,
there's one guitar that will not go on an airplane with me anywhere. That's guitar my wife Cynthia got me years ago for surprised me for my birthday, and that will not go anywhere.
right.
I took it
Yeah,
out
yeah,
once. That was it.
right.
You
I
know.
was hoping you weren't going to say that's the one here in my my house.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. No,
like
that
it's
one.
really sentimental. I go out like wrap it up.
Well, the one that's at your house right now, that's pretty sentimental. That's my first ever ESP, the white one, actually. So once we'll get
Yeah.
that running, but
We're gonna
yeah,
get on that soon. That's our coming up project here when we get some time together and trick that thing out pretty good. That'll be a cool job.
yeah. But
And it's funny. So my reaction to your guitars getting lost, it's sort of like my reaction to some of the, like I've always said, some of the best conversations that we have when we have a guest on is after
mhm.
I hit the record button to stop recording, because everybody just kind of BS's for 15 minutes, an hour, or whatever. And that's just where I know, well, more than I do in the show, because sometimes I just get caught up in the stories. But that's where the cool stuff comes in, and I'm always sitting there going like, shit, I never thought of that. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I just thought that, like, when you all travel, like you're like magically your guitars and your drum stuff gets there. But I guess that's not the case. Some of
Yeah,
the things
yeah,
that some of the stories you all tell me about when you're touring is just not how I envision it. I know I say that a lot, but um, yeah. So the channel, we wanted to talk about some of the things that we had envisioned for the channel. We want to keep having guests on, having more guests and interesting guests.
mhm,
We want to talk about, we're both gear nerds, so we want to talk about guitars and gear and new stuff and old stuff and new trends and things like that. Um, but we also want to have, we've kind of, we'll let everybody in on some of our conversations. Like, we want to do things that not everybody is out there doing. We don't want to do a run of the mill interview. And I think when you and I, well, I mean, this kind of started out as a joke because you wanted to do a podcast, and I joked and said I wanted to be your cameraman. And that morphed into this.
Yeah, yeah.
Which there's probably people watching this going like, he should have just been a friggin' cameraman. But
No, it'd be
but
me.
I think, we're kind of like, we don't want this to look like an interview format. We want it to look like, or like a typical interview format. We want it to be like, like you all are talking when you're on tour together, and kind of the behind the scenes backstage BS sessions and nerding out about music and gear and stuff like that. So I think that's been interesting, because we all kind of get to watch you all, talk about things that, even as insignificant as it is about missing guitars, like that's shit that I wouldn't. Writing songs, that has been some of the more interesting topics we've talked about, is how, like, a lot of us don't understand how the whole songwriting. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that do. I don't. It's beyond me. I always tell you, I'm like that kind of literal person, like I read directions, follow directions, do what the directions say, kind of thing. So to me, there would have to be directions to writing a song, I suppose. But
Yeah,
we've the other thing that we've talked about is, kind of, merging these two worlds together, if you will, with local artists. And when I say local, I don't mean in the DC, Fredericksburg, Richmond area. I mean local artists, no matter where you are, um,
mhm,
with touring artists, and just kind of getting some of these group talks and these, we can have multiple people on here and exchange ideas. And we've talked to some of the guests that we've had on so far, and a couple of them have been up for doing that. I think it would kind of be cool to just, get, four or so people in here, just kind of. I think it'd be different. You don't see that just everywhere,
sure.
where local guys are with people that are going to Hellfest and all these festivals and things like that, exchanging ideas, and helping out. I know some people that write songs, and I'm sure that they'd like to pick some brains of some of the songwriters that we've had on. You know,
Yeah, and even the stories behind the guitar, certain instruments where how it inspires you in a certain way, and
right?
I always find that interesting too, like how a certain instrument will inspire somebody to,
Right,
or the stories behind the instrument, of
right.
the people that owned it in the past, and it's always cool to hear all these stories, about stuff like that,
Yeah, and I think the
Mm,
one thing that you and I have in common is, and you're really good with me about that. Like, you keep me inspired to do things and play, and I have some other people that keep me inspired to play, even when I kind of get down on it. Especially when I'm working on guitars more than I'm playing guitars. But excuse me. Um, but I think that the thing that we have in common is we want this channel to inspire people to play guitar, and kind of find what inspires them. And I had somebody call today that wants to bring in a guitar, and she kept mentioning, she had a couple nice guitars. I think one was Les Paul, and just bought a new one, and bought an Ibanez, and she kept going into, I have these really nice guitars, and I'm not that good of a player. And I said, who cares? Who
yeah,
cares? I mean, if you have a guitar that's cool, and who cares if it's cheap or expensive, if you think it's cool and it makes you play, whatever, who cares?
yeah,
Don't worry about
yeah.
the stuff out there.
Absolutely. If the instrument, enables you to speak the way you want to speak, it doesn't matter how expensive the guitar is. I mean, I had this conversation recently, when I was at Hellfest, actually, with Tony, who's my rep from ESP, and we had lunch together, and so he, we're talking about like custom shop guitars and like mass produced instruments like LTD is an assembly line,
Right.
but we were bringing up how some of these guitars that are not say a $1,500 guitar versus a $5,000 $6,000 guitar, like a good guitar is a good guitar,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter if it inspires you or it enables you to speak the way you want to speak, then there's no price tag on that, and
Right.
like I saw, I was telling him how I saw this rig rundown, and you know I'm sure you watch that stuff too sometimes, the
Mhm.
rig rundowns,
No, I don't.
and
That's
yeah,
all I watch.
yeah. So it was Vivian Campbell, who's the original guitarist of Dio, and he's been Def Leppard for forever. So it was like his tech, and so he had some like high end Les Pauls or whatever, and then the tech, the guy doing the rig rundown asked him about, oh, he's got this you got this Gibson Studio, which is Gibson Studios are, well, how much are those guitars? I don't know, 1,000 to 1,500.
Yeah,
100 bucks or
thereabout.
something like that. So
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, that's he's playing the studio," and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Good guitar is a good guitar, man,"
Yeah.
and it's like, well, yeah, like you know, it's just like equipment, it's like having all these high end equipment. It's not going to make you play better.
Right. Right. Well,
you
and I
know.
think a lot of us get that wrong. I know I did. I all these stories, but when I first started playing again as an adult, my wife bought me an Epiphone for $349. Is because my childhood guitar, what the tech said that the body was broken in half, and she was rewarding me. Talk about wives buying things. She was rewarding me because I think it had been 10 years since I had stopped smoking or something like that. So it was kind of a cool little gift. And I was like, $349 for a guitar? That's bullshit, man. I'd never pay that. So, but we bought it.
Mhm.
And then, I started doing this thing, and I see guys do it a lot. Well, then you're $1,000 guitar, and then you're higher, and you always try to talk yourself into, well, if I buy one that's more expensive, it's going to play better. It's going to make me play better, and I got that wrong for a long, long time.
Mhm.
I'm still the okayest guitar player there is. I can play songs and things like that, but I'm by no means a shredder. Way better tech, but I think a well set up guitar, no matter how much it costs, if it's comfortable to you, you're going to play it more. And that we've said this during some of the interviews we've done. I stopped playing when I was a kid because I hated bar chords when I was a teenager, and I played in an orchestra also, and I had super high action. I hated the guitar, and I went out and started playing basketball and skateboarding and BMX racing and everything else, except for playing guitar. Um, so that's why I try to make sure that I catch it on the repair end. When they're coming in here, I try to make sure I'm setting up the guitar to the person and the player to make sure it's comfortable for them, because if it's not, they're not going to play.
Yeah.
I'm a big example of that. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that those are. I know we kind of got off track of what we want to do with the channel, but I think it would be cool to do that. I don't know if anybody else that's doing it. I think they'd be some cool discussions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing about our channel is, even though it's called the Guitar Gear Locker, I think it's just about musical inspiration and discussing all that and the things that inspire us to do great things. And and art is a beautiful thing, and it's also something that therapeutic. I think with people, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter how good you are or whatever, just to grab the instrument and write something or just express yourself,
right.
just to get through everyday life, and I think that's what music it's an amazing force, and I think that's what this show's about, and just hear people tell their interesting stories, about that inspiration, that enables us to do something great and escape the negative, realities of existence sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, yeah, so there's no rules, and it's, there's so many ideas I think we've talked about that we want to do that, most people that have been following the channel, obviously they know we just only done, interviews and, yeah, so there's a lot of ideas that we have in store that we're going to try and bring out there, and,
Yeah,
as
we
well as we were talking about earlier about the one guitar that I took to Europe,
right,
and just certain projects that Roger has,
right.
that he works on, because I know sometimes I'll see that he's got certain guitars and I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool, and oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go do this to the guitar, and so
right. Yeah, and
yeah.
that's the one thing that we've been heavy on the interview, and it's kind of interesting, the way that our channel has been so far. I think it's hard for a viewer because if they view it and they're a fan of yours, a fan of immolation or death metal or the person that we're interviewing, as soon as we start talking about the geeky style stuff, they might want to dip out and then dip back in when we start talking about music again. But there are going to be times that we definitely, like, we have a show or we have a recording of you and I working on a guitar, which that one will be up one day soon, or winding a pickup or doing something like that where, if you hang with it, if you're here to just watch the metal side of it or the music side, if you hang with it, some of those are super interesting.
Mhm.
Winding the pickup, some of the, I mean, you said it, man, I'm pretty lucky. I get to see some really cool guitars coming through here.
Yeah.
It surprised me. I'm pretty lucky. I have really cool customers. Um, a lot of them have become friends. Most have become friends, and they just bring me the craziest stuff to see. Sitting behind me, I usually sit in the dark because I'm in my shop and I don't want to clean up behind me. So that's why it's always dark behind me. But like right now, before we get started, I usually do one of these. Oh, it's not going to work now.
Yeah.
I do
Oh,
one of
let's
these
see it.
for Alex
We got.
and show them what I have behind me. Kind of cool.
Oh,
I have a double neck. It's not a Gibson. It's a custom builder, but just finished that. It's like a Jimmy Page double neck. Really cool guitar. 12 string over 6 string. So yeah. So sometimes we're just gonna have those things on here, and then I can deal with the guitar techie guys that are gonna tell me how I'm doing everything wrong.
well,
So,
double neck, that's not your normal thing that you see every day. I'm curious, what's the weight like on that? Is it
oh
is
my
it
God, it's
heavy?
super heavy. It's
Yeah.
heavy and it's awkward to play. I played a couple double necks that have come in here, and this is just big. I'm a big guy, and it's big for me. Played it a little bit today, but it like the project part of it is kind of cool because it was a custom build by somebody up in the Northeast. I forget the name of it. It escapes me, but you could switch between the 6 or the 12, or you could have them both active. But this one came in because the wiring, it's older. The wiring was a little, well, it was old. So it did a little rewiring. Somebody through the years had put a passive EMG in it, and the new owner didn't like that. So I actually did a pickup for him. So it's kind of cool. So it has the three of the original pickups in it. And it was like three chrome or nickel pickups and then one black one in it. So he wanted them all to match. So I made him a pickup for that. So it was kind of cool project. I had one recently that you and I had talked about, the Gibson Epiphone. I think we looked it up. It was a 94.
Mhm.
And that was, like I said, I have really cool people to come in here, and it's like, here's a blank slate. There was literally nothing in the guitar. It's like I want it wired like a vintage Gibson, and I want your pickups in it, and I get that occasionally. Like some guy, some guys, I've had them call me from. One guy was from Buffalo. I've had one from Philly called me, and they'll literally say like, I like the idea of a guy in his basement winding pickups. So, and I'll wind them a set of pickups. I enjoy doing it. So they sound pretty good. I like making different noises for people and different sounds and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of cool, and we're gonna have some of those on, which will bore the people that are tuning in for music. So,
yeah,
but it'll be cool. We just want to do, like you said, there's no rules. We've had drummers, we've had guitarists, we've had
yeah,
songwriters, we've had bass players.
yes,
Everybody has been super, super cool.
yeah.
Um, Everybody has owned their bases. So every time I say that, it's me
Inside
being
joke.
shallow. What's that?
Inside joke, I said.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an inside joke. It's just me being shallow because I am a shallow person. I don't forget shit when somebody's an asshole to me.
And we
Um,
we definitely got a lot of people, we've had planned actually for, upcoming guests too, and, that we've been meaning to get on the show. It's just, it's just a matter of, sometimes scheduling and stuff like that,
right,
but, we do have some cool people lined up, that already, wanna come on, and, actually, I could probably talk about. I have to get back to him because I was leaving for Europe. But my friend Josh, the lead guitarist for Cattle Decapitation, plan on getting Josh on the show. And
yep,
Josh is like a super guitar nerd guy and an amazing guitar player. And he actually, I think Roger, you'll find it pretty interesting. He has like these custom guitars that he uses from a luthier in Nashville,
oh wow,
and the guitars they look like violins, like the body of it's really interesting. And some of the it's like a mix of like wood and some type of metal or something. I don't know. It's really, really interesting. And
right,
so he's hopefully we get him on the show soon too.
yeah.
And I guess we can mention Adam from FU Tone eventually. We're
From
planning on
FU-Tone,
getting on.
he has said he's agreed to be on. We're trying to schedule some of these out. We're in a vacation time of year. But he said he'd like to be on the show, and everybody knows we're both big FU-Tone fans. I'm
Mhm.
a Tone dealer, so I deal with those guys. They're great to deal with up there.
And I
Love
got
their products.
Yeah, I gotta bring up even to give a little, shout out to FU Tone. So, on this recent shows that I did, we put, brass block in the guitars, FU Tone brass block, and our sound girl, Cheyenne, pointed out how great my guitar sounded, you know? And I
Yeah,
was telling her, and she was just like, "Wow, really, really, really good sound you've been getting," and, so I was just like, well, recently we put the FU tone brass blocks, in the Floyd, and it really does make a big difference, I think. And
right.
you know, I I kind of swear by it now, like putting those things in, it really definitely adds to the sustain of the instrument and
Yeah, definitely does.
the tone, and yeah, it's a fantastic fantastic thing to have.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
my feelings on it. I think I call it, and I mean, if we're gonna do lives, people will probably hear me say this occasionally, that I think there's a little bit of voodoo and in guitar stuff, but I definitely don't think the FU tone stuff is voodoo. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
I think that, and I don't want to get too much into it because when Adam's on, I want to talk with him. But I had before I was a dealer for FU Tone, I was told about them, and I had a guitar that had his products in it. It was an EVH Wolfgang, and I just happened to buy one for myself. Um, to my collection of guitars. So I had the unique opportunity of having one that I think Adam himself had upgraded. The guy had sent it to him, and
Mhm.
I had the unique opportunity to be able to A/B them, and there was a distinct difference. And it was at that time. I think I actually chased Adam down to become a dealer. I think I bugged him to the point, and it wasn't that bad. I asked him a couple times, and he let me. So, and you know what? The side benefit is my wife likes it. She doesn't play guitar, but if I put the titanium, I have it in a couple guitars and my D Martini and all that, and she likes it. So anytime you can get the wife to buy in on these things,
Yeah,
it's going
yeah.
well. But
Speaking of Tone, I think when they came on the radar for me, it was through one of our past guests, which was Steve McQuaid of
right,
CMC Guitars. And uh, Steve is, friends with Adam. And I know this is a long time ago now, but he was, using some of the upgraded parts on some of his guitars at his shop. And so I remember him just, telling me about it.
right,
And I was just like, huh, like I was intrigued, but until I experienced it myself,
right,
just A, B in the guitar, you definitely, and like you said too, I mean, there's certain things that are just voodoo that we can't explain. You'll have
right,
like some, cheaper guitar that sounds way better than some, like I was saying earlier, about some $5,000-6,000 guitar. There's
right,
just something in there, or you get some super expensive guitar that this sounds like absolute shit.
right.
And
It happens.
you know, so you can't explain. There's just sometimes you just get that special piece of wood that it's got some magic in it.
Right, right.
Too.
Well,
But
we've talked about somebody I'd like to get on and just kind of like brainstorming with the people that are watching. I see we have 4 watching now. I just discovered you can tell that. Um, so it's hard to kind of focus on what you're doing and focus on what is around you on the screen also. But we've kind of talked about other places. I'm a big String fan. The company, the products. I've talked to them.
Mhm.
Just kind of in passing. I think that they would be willing to come on, and I think it would be interesting just to hear, hear about some of their processes. Sometimes I get caught up into not only the product but the business side of things and the process and things like that. It's kind of cool to me.
Yeah.
But we talked about that. But also, like I said, there's 4 watching now. You can drop a comment in. You can drop a comment in after we're off. It'll be posted up on YouTube. And if somebody else has somebody they'd like to see us try to get on here, we
Mhm.
have tried to pursue people like some local people and all that. But if somebody has ideas of somebody they'd
Yeah.
like to see on here or a company or what have you.
Sure. Or if you have any questions while we're here, we are here now. So if you want to drop a question in the comments.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like just typing my own question in there. Like, Alex, what hair products do you use?
Yeah. What do I use?
What hair products do you Just a question. I was gonna
I
type it in myself.
use whatever my wife buys.
I'm just joking. I just figured I'm being me. So I'm kind of phony
Yeah,
because I don't know what to say. I don't know
it's
when
an
we're
honest.
when we're interviewing people, I sometimes I'm quiet because I'm just fascinated by the conversation. Um, and I'm kind of into the conversation. And sometimes, I mean, we know I kind of came out of the government. Look, we just got a hi, guys.
Hey, hi, John Wild.
Yeah, wow. Thanks, man. Look, that's our first comment.
Yes, we've
First,
made it.
and look, see, here we go. We got it. See, thanks, John. You allowed me to figure out how to use something else on the live stream here.
Any questions, John?
Do you want to know anything about Alex's hair products? No, but
Don't
I
want.
think what I was saying is like sometimes I don't like in my former job, I kind of knew what inbounds and out of bounds was. I kind of haven't figured it out in this world yet. And in my old life, I used to stay out of bounds most of the time. So I don't want to run off. I mean, most of these people are your friends. I don't want to say something too stupid and run them off, and they don't speak to you anymore. I
Yeah.
haven't run you off yet.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said I haven't run you off yet.
Why did you switch from incantation to immolation? Enjoy your work in both. Well, uh, so incantation. Well, hmm, that is a long time ago. Um, well, I can say, both bands, in particularly Bob and Ross and John McEntee, basically have known. Um, Actually, the four of us been friends since we were teenagers, really, and so I have to say it was very cool to play with your friends. I never saw myself in either band, to be honest with you. Um, on a musical level, I would say Immolation is more of a fit for me as a guitar player. That Bob's approach to songwriting and playing guitar is more common of what I do as a guitar player. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I'm very grateful that to play in both bands. So yeah, I mean, just it was just for me for incantation. It was just couldn't work going forward anymore for me. In the band, and immolation was just more of a suit, and I never saw myself in immolation either. It just happened out of the blue, where Ross we're just having a normal conversation one day because we always would talk at least once a week for many, many years on the phone. And one day out of the blue, he just asked me at the end of the conversation if I'd be into joining the band. And yeah, so here I am many years later. But
So sometimes is it like you're just looking for a different scene or a different vibe or what?
yeah, I mean, it just wasn't working anymore in the band with incantation, and things have worked out for the best for them because now with the guitarist they have now, Luke, he's I think he's a fantastic fit for the band. He's a great guitar player, a great guy, and yeah, they're doing really well, and it's worked out for all of us, I think. um so I'm happy for incantation, and happy for the guys there, and I'm happy to be here where I am in immolation. So
Yeah. Sounds
yeah,
like
I don't
all
know if that answers your question, but I mean, like I said, it's a long time ago now. So my brain's a little foggy too with things. It's not like something I think about every day either, but I don't know if that answers your question, John, but
it sounds like, I mean, if I can jump in, it doesn't sound like there's anything juicy there, right? It's just a thing. Like sometimes people move on and do different things.
yeah, yeah, it's no big deal, really. Even people fight too in bands, and people have disagreements, and at the end of the day, you know if you're it's just a band, man. If you're gonna continue, I don't know, fighting or hold resentments and all, it doesn't really help anybody. It's like I'm grateful for all the projects I've been in. So, hey, Brian Sakula. Brian's an old friend of mine. Man, great to hear from you, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Brian is Roger is a fantastic guitar player, and he's a one of the legends of the Cleveland metal scene in Ohio.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, man, what's up, Brian? Great to see you on here.
Yeah,
I
I
don't,
hope we're not boring you too much.
yeah.
Like, truth be told, some of this is me kind of getting more comfortable with this. I'm
But this,
definitely not. I'm not a
yeah,
shy person, but I wasn't. Neither one of us have been really like, let's do a live.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the most socialite either, so
Yeah, you and I, so you're kind of more introverted and a little quieter. I am usually shot out of a cannon, but something about doing this, and I'm not a shy person. I've spoken in front of a lot of people before,
yeah.
used to teach and all that kind of stuff. But something about this, yeah, man, it was a little different for me, as you know.
Well,
It's like,
I
we
think
should
it's
go live. No, we shouldn't.
it's just like, I think when people have certain things in interest, it comes out in a certain way where, people start like me and you, when me and you first met each other, it was just like, oh, guitars and this and
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And, so like, Bob and Ross will usually, you know, joke about me on tour, like, "Oh, he always finds the guitar nerd to talk to. That's the only people that he talks to is if you're
yeah,
going to talk about guitars and or 70s hard rock and early heavy metal, then he's your guy."
yeah.
So, uh,
They did that to us when we went down to see you all in Richmond. They caught us talking. I
oh,
just
okay.
tuned in.
So, tune in question or Evertune. I'm wondering if they are worth getting.
Evertune.
Oh, yes, Evertune. So, at first, I was not a fan, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it at first. And so over time, I've once you kind of get the hang of how it works, it's a pretty cool invention. It definitely comes in handy, especially in the studio with tuning stability. And you said about being able to hammer on, not going out of tune. Yes, it will not go out of tune. I
Yeah,
mean, I
well,
mean, eventually anything will go out of tune if it's the strings get old or whatever, But yeah, I mean, you can set them up, where you can bend the string and all that stuff, and basically what you do is once you have it in tune, because everything is when you tune the guitar, it's actually on the bridge, it's not through the tuning pegs.
right.
But, if you wanna make it bend, so what you do is you take the tuning peg and you bring it sharp, and then you bring it back to pitch, and then you can bend the strings, and you can even set it up to a certain way, like you can make it looser, you just bend it a
Yeah.
little bit more, and then, bring in the tuning pegs, sharp, and then bringing it back to pitch.
What's
Um,
like the
yeah,
bridge kind of compensates, like you if you set it in the one position that you were talking about, if you get it in the one position, no matter how you can do a two-step bend, and it's gonna still maintain the note because the bridge is gonna compensate for that bend. But if you get
yeah,
it you keep yours to where you can bend, you keep yours in
yeah.
that, I think it's zone 2 or whatever.
Yeah, the
Um,
only the only complaint I have about it is to bring those guitars out on tour, and my thing is if you're gonna bring a guitar, with an Evertune out on tour, you better have a tech that really knows how to work those things, because,
yeah.
they're a little tricky.
And Brian, to answer your last question, I do. I don't work on them enough because I don't see many. But Alex had an issue with one that he brought in. It was kind of interesting. It was my first time dealing with that, where actually, so it's kind of modularized, if you will. So each string is a different module. So one of yours, I forget which string it was it the four string?
Yeah,
I,
yeah, something. I can't remember
what,
which one,
so
but they're
they're a little bit finicky to where I mean sometimes it's a hex or Allen wrench or Allen screw. So it just stripped out. The cool thing about that is, that they well, there's good and bad. So the bad thing about it is you just can't get a new hex screw and throw it in there. But I had reached out to Evertune and I bought the new module, if you will, for that particular string, and it just kind of slides in all six strings. Um, in the tension system and the spring system, they're all held together by what they call a comb. It just kind of holds them all together, if you will. It was super easy to work on. I don't, you know, like Alex said, you should probably have a tech that knows what they're doing, but I think a player could figure it out pretty easily. They're well designed, I think.
yeah,
So
and I mean, there's pros and cons, I think, with different bridges. Like in the studio in particular, if you're doing something where you really want to keep everything really secure as far as like the tuning stability for certain chords and things like that, it's great to have the Evertune. But then there's the other side of things. If you want something a little bit more loose sounding, it's good to have like a fixed bridge kind of guitar or whatever, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, there's pros and cons to it, but it definitely, especially when you're on the clock in the studio and things like that, you want to keep that guitar in tune and yeah, I mean those things are it's definitely a pretty amazing invention, and it's funny because when I first got the guitar, I brought it to my old tech and he really, I don't know, think he could really get his head wrapped around it. And
His
then
name's Roger.
kind of, yeah, I was kind of depressed about it because, just a great guitar. And I was just like, man, this bridge. So, a friend of mine, his friend he grew up with is actually he's a guitar luthier out in New York City, and he's worked on guitars, Jeff Beck and Billy Gibbons, and he builds guitars for the guitar player in Guns N' Roses. And this guy was super good friends with the guy that invented the Evertune. So he was like, take it to him. He's good friends with the guy that invented and he explained it to me more, and he set it up for me originally. And,
Right.
and that was kind of like the beginning of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm using a string through body because I'm digging the tone and just fact not changing strings on the fly. Yeah, I agree with that. With the Floyd, the Nightmare, it's definitely easier changing the strings, and for the most part, I find that those guitars sound better than a guitar with a Floyd. But then again, you got things like the FU tone, and I don't know, some guitars just sound amazing no matter what. It's like with the Floyd too. Like there's a theory because you got all that wood cut out of the back.
What Brian? Brian's cool, man. I like these questions. Alex, do I want to tell him
Oh,
how
oh, I don't even. Yeah. Well, it's called lack of sleep and lack of time.
with that?
Not how not to string your guitar up. I thought you're going to bring up the.
I'm probably so I think I do it both ways. And I recently I haven't done this before because I tried. So I try to be pretty conscious with people's guitars that I don't scratch them or ding them. And I know guitars get dinged and scratched and all that kind of stuff, and that's part of it. But I don't want to own one of them. Um, so I try not to use one of those. I forget the name of it. I just recently a customer brought a guitar in with a Floyd on it with one of those little wedges underneath of it. So I use that, but um, I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty quick about stringing one of those up, a string out of a Floyd. And if I'm doing especially fret work in a setup, which I typically do fret work with a setup, I pull the bridge out and I set it in front of me, the Floyd out. I found that to be faster, but I don't always do that. A majority of the time, I take the bridge off of it. I know there's techs out there are probably shaking their head, but this is just the way I do it. But if I was worried, there are times where I'm just trying to get it done quickly, um, and I'll block the bridge and then just change the strings on them then. But Alex, you saw me do it that day. I can fly through it pretty fast.
Oh yeah, and the guy that said right here, just block the trim. Yes, that's
Yeah, yeah,
that's what I. All my Floyds, all my guitars are with Floyds. The
yeah,
trims are blocked,
right.
so
And
you
I
know.
don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I do that sometimes. A majority of the time, I don't because I'm doing other things to the guitar. And again, you were sitting here that day. I take it out, I set it in front of me, clip the ends, string it up, and then just pop it right back in, and I'm done. And I found that
Mhm.
to be kind of the best way for me.
Yeah.
But there's different ways. I'm also not trying to do it backstage. If I was doing it for you backstage, or there's once in a while I tech out for local bands. If I'm doing that, I'm definitely not taking the bridge out.
Yeah. Hello, Vlad Tepes. Hello there.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I'm trying to run my mouth and keep up with these. Yep, just block them right on.
Yeah.
How are
Hello,
you
Vlad
doing? Thanks
Impaler.
for
There he
joining us.
is. Yes.
Alex,
Uh,
when did
well,
you start playing ESPs?
actually, first ESP guitar that I got was in the mid 90s. It's one guitar that's sitting in Roger's shop right now that eventually we're going to get to. And that was an ESP Maverick. But the first ESP guitar that I ever played was in 1992. And it was actually, if you're familiar with Derek Roddy, the drummer, me and Derek were going to do a band after I left my original band, Goraphobia. And so I went down there when he's originally from South Carolina, and Derek is a guitar player as well as a drummer, an amazing guitar player. And he had a ESP. It was a red ESP M2, if I remember correctly. And I picked up that guitar, and I was immediate, immediately in love with the guitar. I was just like, this is just ridiculous. So but I didn't get my first DSP until maybe around 94, 95 ish, I guess. So I don't know. Yeah, so it's been a while, But I mean, I've played other guitars as well. I played Jackson and Charvel and Gibson and Fender and you name it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
What and I think we get I think if people would watch the interviews, they think we hate Gibson. We don't hate Gibson, but
Mm.
we're fine. Well, we both love Gibson. I love Gibson.
Oh
But
yeah.
I
Of
see
course.
a lot of LTDs and a lot of ESPs coming through here, and they are solid. So
Yeah.
it's rare that I see one in here that isn't decent.
Yeah. To address the Gibson thing, like I would just say, I mean, Gibson is iconic, and the guitar that I first fell in love with was the Gibson Flying V because of KK Downing and Michael Schenker, and I saw that guitar and I was just like, oh my god, And but I think it's just a lot of people in the guitar industry know that some of the guitars just weren't being built on par, and then when you're charging outrageous prices for a guitar that is not as well built as they used to be, then that's a problem.
Well, I think
So
some of my issues is, and it's kind of all guitars. You see issues with brand new guitars, but I seem to notice, and it's just my observation when I see Gibsons come in here, and I had one, and it drove me crazy because I'm pretty OCD. My wife actually told me to sell that Les Paul, but when I had one with the frets were, or not the frets themselves, but the side of the fretboard had file marks in it. And I get it; they're made by hand, but the rest of my guitars don't have file marks. So I called them and I asked them about it. And they said, "Hey, it's a handmade instrument. You're going to have file marks." And like I said, I don't know. I'm OCD. I see a lot come in here now, and I usually sand them out because it's my way of thumbing my nose and saying they shouldn't have file marks. And I'm shallow. Uh,
mhm. Yes, absolutely, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, I mean I own some Fender Strats, and I love Fender guitars, and yeah, absolutely with a humbucker
Fenders
anything.
with humbuckers, hums,
Sure, why not?
single
Absolutely.
or humbuckers.
I got a Fender right back here, but no humbucker, but it's got single coils.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. I definitely actually that's on my bucket list is to eventually get a Fender Strat with a hums two single coils
yeah,
configuration.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, usually if I have a parent ask me, my son or daughter they're looking to play guitar, they don't know what they want to play. I'll ask what kind of music. I think you can't go wrong with a hum single single because they can kind of like, especially if you don't know what they're going to play. Is it going to be Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan, or is it going to be something heavier where you get the humbucker? Just again, just my opinion.
That's a great thing to have that diversity configuration of pickups when you get multiple tones out of the guitar.
Right, right.
Gauge strings. Yeah. So I
Orange
use
extension cords.
yeah. What is it? I use 1356 Diodario gauge strings for C standard, and one for like my other band Ruinous, which were tuned to A standard. It's the same 13 to 56. And if I'm in tune to E standard, I use 10 gauge strings. I can't remember the exact gauge.
1046.
I think so. I think that would be right.
Yeah.
1046. So
Catching up on some of these.
round third, yes, yes. Hey? Oh no, wait. And I'm looking too far into it.
All
When
right.
you'll first release some music and touring, what were some of your dream guitars? Well, when did I first start releasing music? Late 80s. Dream guitars. Oh my God. Well, both of us, Roger, could probably go on, but
Yeah.
let me see. I definitely would love to own some uh early 80s Charvels.
Yep.
I would love to find early Jackson guitars. Um, actually I would love to have a 70s Strat. I love the fat headstocks. Roger just had one in the shop not too long ago, I think.
Yeah.
And
Super nice.
yeah, yeah. Oh, like I would say like a late 70s. I would say like 19 Gibson Flying V 1975 to 1982, that range of those years. That would definitely be a dream guitar. And then like like hard rock guitars, like eventually I'd love to get a Gibson ES 335, or
Oh,
like you
really?
know, yeah, or like a Gretsch, Gretsch Falcon or White Falcon or something like that. That would be really cool.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot.
I think, you know,
Ibanez Iceman. I always wanted an Ibanez Iceman. That's another guitar that's
yeah,
definitely on my bucket list for sure. So,
mine would be a mid 80s Charvel Jackson Model 6. I have one
yeah.
that comes in here that, man, that guitar is magical. Had a Model 4 in not long ago, that has a bolt-on neck. Model
Mhm.
6s are nice. But yeah, and I think when I was younger, when I was little, I always wanted a real Gibson Les Paul. I think when we're all young, we want that. Let me catch up with some of these. I think, yeah, just got that one. Yeah, solid configuration, definitely. I think especially, it's like I said, especially when if you have a parent asking you, like what kind of guitar, and they don't really know what their kid's going to play, you can't go wrong with that, I don't think. Do you use a wound third, Alex?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yours are, yeah, they're pretty thick. And I have
Yeah.
a majority of the ones that I stock aren't a wound third, but I do stock some because I have customers that come in here and that will specifically ask for a wound third. John, wow. Let me, hey, bear with me, guys. I'm new at this. I'm down. I have one training wheel on now. Do you want? Yeah, I actually do. Oh, Chuck Sherwood. Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun with Chuck. Man,
Yeah.
that thing did well on the views too. He's a cool dude. I like listening to him talking about not only the bass but the songwriting. I actually do a lot with basses. I have a few that's scheduled to come in here this week. I actually see a lot of basses. I have one customer that has a ton of basses and a 12-string bass. So I do see them. I like working on them. I have another customer that jumped on a train and went to New Jersey and got a Warwick, and that thing was phenomenal. That's when I knew how bad my bass was.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of Chuck, Chuck has a Warwick bass, and I believe it's a custom shop that he had ordered years ago. And man, that is such an amazing bass. I think that might be his. I've played a lot of Chuck's basses, and I think that's one of his best instruments that he owns, and it's got like this amazing neck on that thing. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. You know,
Yeah, man, those things are beautiful. There's some really nice bases out there. And
yeah.
Carbon, the customer that I have, and he's a friend. He brings in a Carbon that is just beautiful. Brian, get the dude. Sorry, we're reading.
Wow. So you got a bypass drop pedal. Oh, okay. So it's like a pitch. I guess it
Oh
changes
yeah,
the pitch. Yeah. But,
yeah, yeah,
whatever works. I'm not a. I don't know. I guess I'm like old school where it's just like I'm just going to tune the guitar down.
right,
Like
right.
so.
And
But yeah,
I'm seeing I'm seeing a lot of, especially with the younger guys, a lot of lower alternate tunings. The tunings are just all over the place nowadays. And some of the guys in local bands that are playing out now, they'll take multiple guitars, baritone tuning, different things like that. Let's see here.
did you expect?
Oh, okay.
Um. Yeah. So. Yeah. ESP. Well. Yeah. I've been endorsed with the company for I don't know for a while now. I originally got in with ESP because Bob recently got endorsed with ESP when I first joined Immolation, and and originally then the rep was Chris Canella, so Chris brought me on board. I was a huge ESP fan already. I played the guitars already, so yeah, so, Bob through Bob, and then Chris Canella was the rep. Chris is now the artist relations, guy for Dean Guitars now, and actually before that, Chris was with Jackson when I played Jackson, same with Bob, but, and now, when Chris left the company, Tony Rouser became the artist, relations guy, and I have a great relationship with Tony, and consider Tony a good friend, and Tony treats me fantastic, and yeah, I have a great relationship with the company, and I think that's also important too. Is whatever your business relationships are with, especially when you're in the music industry, is to have that kind of friendship too with the people that you're working with, and yeah,
Right.
I'm
Have you
yeah,
noticed, since how long have you been endorsed with them now?
since 2016. So
Have you noticed a difference in the quality and the workmanship of their guitars since you started, your endorsement with them?
I would say that the guitars get better, and I actually had, when I was last time I saw Tony at Hellfest, was just telling him how, certain companies, they just, like you have Gibson, and they're just known for what they have, and they just put out the same guitar, and that's fine. That's what they're known for, and that's what they want to do. But ESP is one of those companies that I feel that are always looking forward to make a better instrument and to always be on the cutting edge of things. Whether it's like, I think they may have been the first company to bring in the Evertune on some of their models to put on
Right.
it. And Fishman pickups was another, which I'm endorsed with Fishman, and I'm pretty sure ESP was probably the first to bring Fishman in. And but yeah, I mean, they're always, looking looking forward to making a better guitar. How can we make something better? What can we
Right.
do to it? Whether it's adding stainless steel frets or the craftsmanship or the tone woods or whatever it is. Um, and I wouldn't. I'm not a guy that would just endorse a company because you're getting free stuff. I'd rather pay for something that I stand behind, and then just get something that you're getting for free and that you really
Yeah.
don't give a shit about, that you can't stand by, So I'm fortunate to be with my favorite guitars or ESPs, and I love a lot of different guitar companies. There's amazing guitars across the board. Like we were talking about Dream guitars earlier, but ESP are my favorite guitars. Period. And
Right.
so and I just think they are like for instance, like the LTD guitars that they make that are predominantly made in, like, the higher end ones are made in Korea, and they're on an assembly line, those guitars, and they're not custom shop guitars or anything like that, but those LTDs are just getting better and better. And the two newest guitars I got from the SP that I brought over to Europe with me are LTD Arrows, and man, those guitars are just amazing.
Those things were flawless out of the box,
Yeah, yeah, and that's just like,
which is rare. It's rare, believe it or not.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's something to be said. I mean, so yeah, and Fishman too.
Yeah.
Fishman's I came across by accident, actually, and that was because ESP for me to use in Europe years ago to keep over there, so I didn't have to keep flying back and forth with the guitars. And so they had the Fishmans already in there, and I just plugged them in, and it was like the pickup that I was looking for, which is
Right.
uh, a hot pickup that has that articulation. Because I played EMGs for many years, and over time, sometimes your tone chasing, like, it changes what you like and what you don't like, and I
Right.
just didn't wasn't what I was looking for anymore. I wanted a pickup that had more of like a passive articulation and the dynamics of a passive pickup, but I wanted the power of a active pickup, like that an EMG had, and Fishman's kind of had that whole full package, I thought, so yeah,
Right. Well, and
amazing.
well, I had somebody ask me a couple weeks ago if so I'm a Fishman dealer. I had somebody ask me if I was a Fishman dealer because I was friends with you. But no, well, maybe so because I installed when you and I first met, I put that's the Willie Adlers in yours, and liked them a lot. Um, so I think that was kind of I mostly dealt with EMGs before that, but I think that's when I discovered how good they were, and I think what was it, about 2 months ago I became a dealer for them. I can't say enough. I tell you what, their hotter sounding pickups are really good, and I have moderns in two of my guitars. I like those. I like the moderns a lot, but I put the Telecaster set in a Telecaster recently. Those things were insanely good. And this, I mean, it wasn't a super high-end expensive guitar, but it was a nice Telecaster when we got done with it and put that Telecaster set of Fishmans in there. And it has a button on it, and you push that button, and it sounded like a completely different guitar. The second voicing in it. That guy loved that guitar when we put him in it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it's I'm curious about those too now. You were
yeah.
telling me this,
Yeah, I was
and
right before we went on live tonight. I was texting back and forth with somebody, told them to take a look at them. And here's the thing. When you're in business for yourself, like there's sometimes you have to carry things just because of demand, and I try to do things for the convenience of my customers. So there's a couple companies that I deal with, but as you know, most of the companies I deal with are companies I like. That's why I don't have a problem talking about them and giving them a free commercial, because I like their products, I like their company, I like their people. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah. Oh, let's see. Any passive humbuckers? Man, I am so old school with my humbuckers. I'll let you go first.
I like I still like the Seymour Duncan JBs.
JP,
You
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I
The
don't,
Jazz
you
is
know,
good.
yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong with those pickups. And I always liked, the Gibson pickups. I always thought sounded really good, and you know, um, yeah. I mean, and I love passive pickups, and I'm I don't know. Eventually, I want to get some of Rogers passive pickups that
Yeah,
he wants in my Fender Strat.
yeah.
Eventually. But yeah, yeah, love passive pickups. Yeah.
I like good old PAFs, and I like and I never knew this until a few years ago somebody taught me how to wind pickups, which they taught me how to do it. They didn't tell me how many winds you put on things because I think you would stand a better chance of getting a nuclear code than getting some of these pickups and winds out of them. But I experiment a lot, and I like doing PAFs, and then I know some people frown on saying overwound, but I like to use a baseline of 5,000 wines, so I like to go above that. There's a particular resistance I like to get, and I know resistance doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's just they're numbers. So if you hear a smaller number and you hear a bigger number, it's potentially hotter. But sometimes if you get too hot on those, especially in the neck, then tend to sound a little muddy. But I there's a couple wines I like. I like scatter wound pickups. I think that they sound a little punchier if they're done right. Sometimes I use an Elnico 5, sometimes a 2, because I use the 2 if I want to do something that's kind of being nostalgic and the original PAFs. But I like and you've heard them. They sound different. They don't. The
Mhm.
machine wound ones just have a machine sound to them, but they're very consistent in the way they sound. When it's me holding a wire, they're going to sound a little different depending on the tension, the number of lines, and all that kind of stuff. So I like
Mhm.
good old PAFs, but
Yeah.
I don't think you can go wrong with a JB, a 59. And also the jazzes are really good from Seymour Duncan. And recently I had somebody come in that had me install one of the Dave Mustaine's in there, and he loves that pickup. So
Mm.
I
Oh,
hope that answered your question. That's kind of like a hodgepodge of different things
the
that I'm seeing out there as trends.
the Dave Mustaine, is he Seymour Duncan, or is he with somebody DiMarzio or something, or is it Seymour Duncan? I think it's
I
Seymour Duncan, right?
think it's Seymour Duncan, yeah.
Yeah. I
That was the one. So you have to forgive my, forgetting it. That's the week I burned the shit out of my handle in the soldering iron. So it's all I have
yeah,
flashbacks when I think of that pickup. But he loved it. He's texted me several times since then. He loves that guitar. Plays a lot of
you know,
metal stuff.
I when we played Hellfest, I actually walked out and I actually watched Megadeth from up front, and I gotta give it to them. Like, Dave Mustaine, like he was just God, man, his guitar tone and just spot on. I was just like, very impressed. I never moved on past the second album, but man, they were I was really impressed. He was
Yeah,
really amazing, let me tell you.
right. Let's see the 1824 like battery boxes. Huh. No, so
Mhm.
as far as the battery boxes for the Fishmans, if you're talking about the rechargeables, not sure if that's what you're talking about or not. As far as increasing the output, I don't have any experience with that. I have to look into that. But the Telecaster set that I just did, that did have the rechargeable battery inside, which it's kind of counterintuitive to see a little like a cell phone connector that you can plug in on a Telecaster. But when I think of when my battery goes dead and my Jackson V, I have to take it apart to change the battery. I don't mind it so much. But I'll have to look into that next time we do a live. Maybe I'll have some more information on it. I have done the battery boxes. I love them. I'm going to start stocking those because especially for the ones that are sealed up and they don't have the place where you can change your 9 volt. Next one is John.
What are your chances Gorephobia play again? Do you stay in touch with any of the members? Probably that will probably never happen. You can never, but I probably say never. But yeah, I still keep in touch with Craig. I keep, Henny, the original rhythm guitar player, with me in the band. Yeah, he does a band with me called Shadows that we have. So yeah, of course, me and Henny are making music together again. Jim Rowe, who played in the drums with Gorephobia, still keep in touch with Jimmy. Jimmy's one of my best friends, and Jimmy plays drums on the new Shadows record, and actually is recording and engineering the record. I'm trying to think of other ex members, VJS here and there. Who else? Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, most of the guys. So yeah.
So it sounded like you're kind of indecisive on that.
Uh
Like, maybe,
yeah,
I mean, possible.
yeah, I talk to most of the guys still, like not every day or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, me and Henny, we do a band together after all these years playing music together. And yeah, Craig, I keep in touch with, and VJS, who played with us at the end here and there, talk to him, and Jim Rowe. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
It sounds like sometimes shit just doesn't work, right?
Well, yeah, that's why
I
bands
mean,
break up.
like, nothing personal, but I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
things just don't work. It doesn't matter if it's a band or whatever.
Or yeah, or just people they just grow in different directions, and that's that.
Yeah. All right, I'll get another question, get you out of that one.
Oh, when Emo starts to tour your bus at wheels are turning your way towards first city, what's the first thing you think about?
Oh, I can answer this one for
I don't
you.
know. How I'm going to get to sleep? I don't know.
No, you're already obsessing like I was earlier, and I'm wanting to be home with your wife and daughter.
Well, that yeah, you know, yeah. After a couple days, it takes a couple days to kind of get into a routine. I think when you're on tour, and to get the whole thing rolling, and anybody that knows that's a touring musician knows how that goes too. It's just like, just getting into the routine of everything. And then at the end, you just get so used to it, and then you go home and you're just like, what the hell do I do now? So yeah,
Do
I
you
don't
all
know.
get yourself psyched up to get ready for a tour, and then like I'm thinking on the bus, I've told you, like, in public safety, we listen to a lot of extreme metal to get us psyched up for stuff. But what do you all use to get you psyched up to get ready to go on stage?
Um, and I don't know. Nothing really. There's nothing exciting going on really, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah, I to be all honest, over the years, I have terrible anxiety before I leave for a tour. I don't I have no anxiety going on stage or anything like that, but it's more or less leaving, because I think
Yeah.
sometimes you're just thinking about leaving home, and then y- it's a big deal, you're getting ready for this journey that you're going to go on. But you know, I don't know, like nothing really in particularly. You know, the only thing I'm thinking about before getting on stage is how I can get my arms to function properly. You know, as you get older, things are falling apart. So, so
Yeah.
that it just as long as my limbs work, that's the main thing.
Brian, I'm gonna check this out. I'm curious now. I appreciate you bringing
Yeah,
that up.
I've heard about that, but I'm like what you're talking about, Brian. But I'm like complete. I'm like I've heard about it, but I'm pretty clueless about it. So Sounds interesting, actually. You know.
Yeah.
No, if you're on the bus, you're sleeping on the bus. If you get hotel rooms, sometimes that's for showers or whatever. Depends on the venues. Usually in Europe, most you're playing in decent venues where they have showers and things like that. But yeah, you're really on the bus, and that's about it. If you're in a van, then you're getting hotel rooms and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, nothing real exciting, to be honest with you.
Now,
You know.
you all don't book your own stuff? Do you have somebody that books, like somebody does your itinerary for you, right? It's not like you're going like, hey, I'm going to be here. I need to book a hotel or travel or
Yeah, I mean, tour manager or whatever. You know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's nothing nothing glamorous going on. Let me tell you. Do you rehearse? Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I do warm up. I try to. Bob actually will warm up probably more than me sometimes. Like, um, but as time goes on, you know, because so, to some people, it's not a secret that I have, some nerve damage and stuff like that I've been dealing with for years. So I do have to do like stretches and things like that. Before. And yeah, I'll try to do some like scales and just making up some scales, just to get my fingers warmed up and my picking. It's not like when you're younger where you just like, oh, there's no more, just go out there and do it. I think getting older, it gets tougher sometimes. And then, like I said, I have nerve damage. So I got to do, yeah, some things to get myself going because but I also think it's like sometimes that the adrenaline just kicks in, and as soon as the adrenaline kicks in when you get on stage, you're usually all right. But,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but yeah, there's definitely warming up, and Bob does a lot of warming up, and Steve does a lot of warming up. Steve's got the toughest job, playing the drums, so he's back there usually before any of us and getting himself prepared and to go out there and do what he does. And Ross, I don't Ross. Nah, Ross doesn't really. I don't, not that he doesn't really do any warming up. He's probably in the best shape out of all of us. The oldest guy in the band. So yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I would love.
Well,
Yeah, that would be
before you
great.
read that one, that's interesting that you said that because I mean, not that I was spying out Ross or anything, but you posted up a video. I was like, that dude's got the gun show happening. Like his
Oh,
arms, he has some big arms, man.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
He had the
yeah,
gun show on display.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so
So there you go.
yeah, I would love that, Brian. That'd be great, man. It's been too long. Last time I saw you, you were up front, and then I went looking for you after the show, and you were gone. So, man, I would love to see you, Brian. Yeah, let's make that happen for sure.
Yeah. And I didn't know if you wanted. Man, I didn't think we had, at 30 minutes we're kind of running out of gas. But did you want to talk really quick about? I know we want to talk about Dean real quick. Um, we can make
Oh
it
yeah,
pretty
I
brief.
mean, I don't know if anybody saw the news, but I really haven't really looked into you know, in depth what the lawsuit really pertained with Dean Guitars and Gibson. I don't know what anybody's opinions on that subject is. What about you, Roger? What do you
But
think about it? Right?
well, I think it's so bad. We said we like Gibson, but it's going to sound like we're bagging on them again. But sometimes they are the giant, So they and of course they're when Agnesi went out last year or year before and said, we're going to sue anybody that looks like us. Um, it's kind of a bullying tactic, but I think that's kind of one of those things for me. I mean, I like Dean guitars. I see a few of those in here. They're super solid too. And I think you get to the point where you start trademarking a shape. And that's basically what happened with the two. That they've been back and forth a couple times. And of course, Dean has their problems, right? So they have all kinds of problems going on internally. But
Mhm.
then they have this lawsuit, and it looks like a couple days ago, they decided to let them go ahead and keep making those two styles. But Gibson's already filed an appeal, so they're going back again. It's weird because I mean ESP has that shape, others have that shape. It seems like maybe I don't know, maybe they have a beef. I don't.
Well, my question is, there's so many guitar companies. Um, you know, so say for instance, the Flying V. Dean has a different headstock. It's not a
Right,
Gibson headstock. There's some differences there, and you think about all the guitar companies with the Stratocaster. I mean, there's so many guitar companies with the Strat type shape. How do
right,
they get away with it? Is
right.
uh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
I think it comes down to this. I mean, who gives a shit what the shape is, man? If it's a square or a Z type or a star type guitar, make your shit better. You
yeah.
have a
Well,
better guitar, it doesn't matter what the shape is, people are going to buy that guitar because it's better. Be
yeah,
better.
yeah. I mean, like for instance, there's the Les Paul, and then
Mhm.
there's the like I play the ESP Eclipses, which is a similar shape to the
Yes,
Les Paul. It's a little
right,
different, but I prefer the Eclipse. It's just for me, it's a better feeling guitar. The necks, it's even the shape. I think it looks cooler. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, let's face it, Gibson is iconic, Fender is iconic. They wrote the book on electric guitars.
right,
Um,
right,
and but there's differences. I mean, I'm even I have like some of the guitars I have. There's like I can bring out one of them. Like there's an ESP that I have. This guitar, which is
oh yeah.
this is a V. It's a really heavy guitar. This one. These are not usually the heaviest guitars. This one's very heavy, but
Right,
it kind of looks similar to like the Jackson King V.
right,
And but it's actually bigger. It's a bigger body than the King V. Maybe similar to the original King Vs. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the story of the Jackson King V, but the King V was named after Robin Crosby of Rat. His nickname was King. So, and he was a big guy, and he, um, the original King V's that they made him back in the early '80s, really big, and then they made them a little bit smaller. But I think this
mhm,
is more close to that. But is it a Jackson? No, there's still differences, and even the contours of the body and the shape a little bit. So there's a little
right,
bit of difference, but it's you would think it's based on that kind of original Jackson shape, you know. Um, but I guess as far as I know, like a lot of companies, if they change little nuances of things, they can get away with, taking that original idea of the shape. I don't
right.
know, but my question is, why didn't Gibson sue Dean in back in the day?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we were
the
making
same
those
thing happened.
guitars in the '70s, but they did it to Ibanez back in the day, and I saw a guy talking about that recently on a guitar podcast where he was, pulling out these like a 75 uh, Ibanez Destroyer, which was taken on the Explorer, which it was
Yeah.
just an Explorer copy. In fact, that's what Eddie Van Halen recorded most of the first Van Halen record, which was on Ibanez Destroyer, and he played a lot of
Right.
those rhythm tracks. And the guy was saying in the video, he's like, "Well, Ibanez, I think, and even more so, Gibson got pissed because they were making a better guitar than the Gibsons that were made in the '70s." It was
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
you know, um, yeah, like you said, make a better guitar.
Yeah.
At the same time, if Gibson can get away with, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 guitar that are not as good as a $3,000 ESP, and people are going to keep buying them, then I
I
guess
don't know, but I think you get to a point. I mean, you know me. I love Paul Reed Smith guitars, and
great.
my
It's a
favorite
great.
guitar is my Custom 22. And being a Marylander, I'm going to love Paul Reed Smith guitars. But they have gotten to the point now. I mean, to what you just said, like you can raise your prices, people are still going to buy them. I'm not there anymore. I'm not going
Yeah,
to spend $5,000 for a PRS.
no,
Not going to
right.
happen. As much as I love them,
Mhm.
and I think we saw that with the Gibsons. Um, you know the the standards. I mean, if you think about it now, the standards they shot way up. Now they're coming back down, and God, you almost look at a standard is almost run of the mill now. It's almost like a studio used to be. It used to be if you had a Les Paul standard, it was like, oh my God, you have a standard, you had something. And now they're
You
almost
know,
run of the mill-ish.
I'll bring up an example of BC Ritz, of Gibson, making a guitar that's not worth what it is. And it's actually an ex-member of Agoraphobias I forgot to bring up, which is my friend John Litchko.
Right.
And so John, I remember years ago, he put money down. It was a Les Paul, and it was a brand new Les Paul that he was saving and putting money down on it every month or whatever he was paying on the guitar. And he finally got the guitar. And then he tells me, "Oh, I got the guitar, but man, I'm so disappointed." So I go down to his house and I pick up this Gibson Les Paul, and man, this thing was a mess. Brand new, the frets, everything fucked up.
Yeah.
Um, he took it back, you
Yeah.
know, and and you could just see the disappointment, and it's just like, what am I paying for? And we've talked about this before, of you getting like Epiphones in the shop that were just better,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it's the same with like, you know, um, an Ibanez that's made in Korea, or an LTD guitar, ESP LTD made in Korea, that are better than some of these USA Gibsons. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
And I think that's also, another thing that happened with companies in the '70s, like Ibanez, like I was talking about earlier, them getting sued by Gibson, but they were making better guitars,
Right.
knockoffs, and where Japan just kind of started to you know, become the other country, that USA was not number one anymore as far as
Right.
guitar building, and you got companies like Ibanez, and then Yamaha
Yeah.
and ESP, and just making phenomenal guitars, and still doing that. Like, Ibanez, another amazing company that makes phenomenal instruments.
Well,
You know,
and you get to hear me bitch about this enough. Brian, I'll catch up with you here in a second, buddy. I see your comments. I'll catch up with you, but let me keep my thought here, or I'll lose it because I'm old. But you get to hear me bitch about it a lot. Where I mean, especially like I'm just in business now. What, going on 5 years, and it is so beyond me. Like, there's no other industry like this. I always use the analogy. It's like buying a car. You go to a new car dealership, you buy a new car, and they're like, "Hey man, on the way home, stop and get your oil changed or get a new set of tires." That's what the guitar industry does basically. It's like you go to the Guitar Center, your guitar shop, whatever, and you pick up a guitar off the wall, and the the string height is super high because they don't want you to see how uneven the frets are, or how it really plays. And they're like, yeah, you should probably get that thing set up. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. I never have. I probably never will. But I think that it comes down to they just need to do better. I'll catch up with some of the comments now. Um, Brian said, when you said that about
I'm right
uh,
there with you, Brian. It's hard for it to get me out of the house, period. So
right. Let's see. You know what? Yeah, if somebody wants to be on next time we do this, shoot us a message, man. We'll bring you in
Brian,
here. You
yeah,
can bullshit with us.
we gotta get you on, man. As long as you want to come on, I'd love to have you on, Brian,
Yeah,
for sure.
anybody that's in the chat, if you want to come on one week, it'd be great to have you. It's been great having you tonight. You kind of made me feel more at ease with this whole thing. It's been kind of fun. I feel like Gibson is like Coke or Pepsi, just out of touch with their customers, and the price point is insane. There's a lot of them that are like that, but Gibson knows that there's guys like me that are going to buy them. Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah,
Um, I'll probably buy
yeah.
Coke too. Gotta love BC Rich, definitely. BC Rich and Schecter. Schecter's coming along, man. I mean, they've always been solid. I think they're getting to be more solid.
BC
Uh,
Rich, the shapes, yeah, definitely unique. To be honest with you, consistency in guitar making, not good. Those early BC Riches, I would say, were the USA ones were
right.
really quality guitars. But if anybody's followed the history of BC Rich, like yeah, not good. Not making a good guitar. It's just like, okay, you got a crazy looking guitar, but
Yeah.
yeah,
There's definitely
it's
the shape is definitely an acquired taste.
yeah,
Not
yeah, it
all.
is. I mean, I remember seeing, I think it was Joe Perry from Aerosmith. He had a BC Rich bitch, and then I remember like Dave Payne had one, and Jeff Hanneman played one, and I was just like, wow, that is just like the evilest look. Lita Ford played one. I remember seeing her with one, and
Right.
but I think, I mean, in the end of the day, it's his preference, but most BC Riches I've played that I've never liked the feel of the guitars or anything like that. And but one guitar that they did make, which is pretty interesting story, which was like kind of like, I guess it was like in the 80s where there was the rise of like Kramer and Charvel and stuff with the shred guitars. So BC Rich made these USA Gunslinger, it's called. And like Lance, I Walter, who owns Ron Street Studios. He I don't know if he still has a guitar or not, but I remember playing his. His was the late, like Andy LaRock from King Diamond played
Yeah.
them. If anybody remembers him in the late '80s, he was playing those BC Rich Gunslingers. Man, what a fucking great guitar! I mean, really well made. And from what I understand, Wayne Charvel was commissioned to come in and oversee um, the construction of those guitars. I don't know how true that is, but I
Yeah.
just heard that he was kind of like hired to come in, and but I don't know. BC Rich's most of them were not for me, not really good guitars. Oh, lawsuit models are better than the Les Paul. Yeah, the Ibanez's, yeah, for sure, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Not only
Yeah,
that, I told you some of the better Les Paul styles that I've seen come in here are the Eastmans.
yeah,
Eastman,
you were telling me
super
that.
solid. I have, if
Mhm.
anybody's looking for one, I have one on consignment for somebody right now. Super solid. I've had a couple of those in here. Really good Les Pauls.
Craig Pillar of all peoples. And yeah, I know. Craig sent me a message one day showing me his I think it was like a flame top that he had got recently. And yeah, it looks really nice. It's and I saw he's got like a V now and stuff like that. Look nice. Sure they're great. Yeah. Fuji Gent, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they make really good guitars, no doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
rolling through them.
Grecos. I'm not that familiar, but I've heard that
They're
they're
old.
really good guitars. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if
Yeah,
I've ever even played one. I might have. I don't know.
yeah. Where
You know.
didn't everybody back in the day have a Greco? And what's the other one that I can't? I, what is the name of the other one that everybody had, including me?
Oh,
My
the Sears guitars.
no, but everybody. I
Yeah.
told my brother's watched a couple of these. He goes because my brother played. We both took lessons together, and he goes, "My God, he doesn't do anything guitar anymore." He's like, "Did everybody start with a damn Sears and Robot guitar?" I'm like, "In our generation, yeah, pretty much." Let's see.
Yeah.
Did we get this one?
Oh yeah, Neil Moser. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
follow his Instagram actually, and I'd love to have one of his bitch guitars that he makes because I've always been in love with that shape. I just thought it was like one of the most evil looking guitars.
yeah. So he, here's my memory. Silvertone. That's what
Silvertone, yeah, Silvertone.
silver.
That's right.
Everybody had a Silvertone, and I get those in here occasionally. They're still really good.
Yeah,
The- You know,
I can remember there were some really horrible like ones. Do you remember like Hondo and Harmony and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and I had a Hondo. Yeah, that guitar was junk.
Yeah, if anybody in the chat, if you not trying that I'm trying to direct you to my Facebook, if you go to the Three Alarm Guitar Facebook and look at some of those guitars that come through here, I've had some silver tones in here, had some old guitars, get a lot of cool guitars in here. Versus a Harmony, yeah. Versus
Yeah,
a
we all got
Harmony,
to start somewhere. Yeah.
yeah. I think you know this story. So Daisy Rocks. It wasn't my my first guitar. My
Mhm.
daughter, when she started playing, she was just a little thing. But Daisy Rocks for little girls. We went to buy her first guitar, and I wanted to get her a Martin, and because that's what she should have. And my wife said, "Nah, man, you need to get her this one." And she pointed at it. And it was a Daisy Rocks, and they kind. I don't know if you know much about them, but
Yeah,
think
yeah, I'm
at one
familiar.
time didn't Joan Jett endorse them? I think
Um,
somebody like that. But they're specifically made for smaller hands and things like that. And this was you maybe you've seen it. It's hanging around here. It was hot pink metal flake. And my wife said, if you want her to play guitar, you need to get her a hot pink metal flake guitar. And she played that damn thing all the time. She was right. She probably wouldn't
mhm.
have played Martin. Let's see. My second was a Silvertone. Third was a yeah. I think everybody started with a. I think mine was a Silvertone. I kind of the one with the cracked body I talked about earlier. Still have it. Aria Pro.
Yes.
So
You know,
it's funny you bring that up. So guy,
me
he's
too.
actually dropping another guitar up on Monday. Check out my Facebook. I'm probably going to post it in a couple of days. I just had a old, I think it's an 80s era Aria Pro um that just freshened up for that guy. It was a cool guitar. That'll be posted up in a couple of days.
Yeah, I have a funny, interesting story related to Area Pro. I don't know if it's actually true, but the first, I guess, kind of real guitar that I got, it was called a Mach 1, and it was a Explorer shape. It was blue. It was a kind of like a metallic blue, whatever finish on it. And I got the guitar because another friend of mine, Joe Young, he still is, he's the lead guitarist in the Corrosion, and he had a Mach 1V, and Joe was like the shredder in my neighborhood, and I was just learning the guitar, and I really looked up to him as a guitar player. He still is. He's such a great guitar player. So um, I was doing well in school, so my dad was like, "Oh, you do well in school, and I'll get you that guitar." So it was a Mach 1, and from what I understand, it was part of the Area Pro 2 family. You know, and I'll tell you that was a really great guitar. I had a great neck on it. It was it was a bolt-on guitar, but it had like a real rosewood,
Mhm.
fretboard on it, and sounded really good, and yeah, so yeah, and Area Pro 2, Area Pro 2. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
they're good guitarists. I'm pretty sure Japanese as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but th
Um,
this it's funny that he brought that up. Like I said, I was gonna post it up today. I'll probably post it up one day early in the week. Um, Really nice guitar, and it's an older one too. But
yeah, if anybody remembers, us old people, when Yngwie Malmsteen played in Alcatraz, he had a Area Pro 2 V, and which is kind of, I know Roger's not an Yngwie fan. We discussed this before, but
you timed me out.
yeah,
I was look, I was acting like I was like, yeah, yeah, Ingve. Nah, he ain't my
yeah,
guy.
but yeah. So Ingve had this Area Pro V, which we all know Ingve is known for the Fender Strat, but he had this V. I think he
Is he a
might. I don't
guitar
even.
player?
What's that?
I'm being a dumbass.
So, but yeah, so I don't know if everybody remembers, but Ingve during Alcatraz, I'm pretty sure it was during this Alcatraz period, he had a Area Pro V, bolt-on V, which is kind of obscure to see that in the Area Pro V.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh,
but
what do you
yeah,
think?
Area
Should we
Pro,
call it?
Cliff Burton too, Area Pro 2. If anybody
Really?
remembers the black, oh yeah, he had the Rickenbacker and then he had the black Area Pro 2 bass. He probably got during like maybe Ride the Lightning era into Master Puppets, and yeah, he had the black one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right, man. What do you think? Should we call it? This has been fun. This has been.
Yeah, it
I
was a lot of
thought it would
fun.
be. I thought it would be fun. I was a little nervous about it. Everybody in the comments has made it a ton of fun. So,
Yeah,
I was
well, I
hoping
just
that would happen where they would kind of help us along with the conversation because you get guitar guys in any kind of room or chat room, we can talk forever.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
you
just
rock
want
too, man. Thank you.
to thank you, man. Thank you for joining us tonight. This was our first ever, kind of an experiment doing a live show. So hopefully we
Yeah,
keep these. I think it'd be really cool and just get people involved and talking about cool stuff.
yeah.
You know, music and guitars and yeah,
Drums,
positive
drums.
stuff, you know. Yeah, drums, whatever.
Hey,
I
so it can be pretty much anything. So when I was in that guitar shop down in Virginia Beach the other day, a guy came walking in with an like an ancient flute. I told
oh wow.
he said, "Well, you should hear me play it." I said, "If you start playing it and a king cobra comes out of a basket, man, I'm leaving." It looked like that kind of thing. All
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna throw a couple of these up here, and then we'll. Hey, thank you for hanging
Thanks,
out.
John. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Great.
Thanks, Brian. Uh,
Ryan, always great,
yeah,
brother.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. Yeah, we'll talk about it next time. I agree.
Yeah,
This was really fun. So yeah, and again, if anybody, so there's an email address for the Gear Locker on the Facebook site and on the sites. So either email us through that. You could email it. I think your email's up there. My email's up there also. Um,
Mhm.
so and I do check it occasionally. The Gear Locker one that is. So yeah, just hit us up and we'll have you on if you want to come in and shoot the bull with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So.
man. Yeah.
All right, Alex, hang in there. I'm going to end the stream. Take care, everybody. Cheers.
Guys,
It's
have a
been
good night.
fun.
Thanks for